Although I'm not very technologically minded, when I do find something that tickles my fancy, I have a closer look, which is what I did last month. And we even did a podcast about it back then. Remember the nuclear power plant in China run
Oh
on
yeah,
thorium?
yeah.
Thorium is considered a waste by many mineral mining companies, and much of the time it's discarded. So it's very cheap, and there's loads of it about. So let's get back to this power station. China built a mini power station back in 2018 to power 2,000 homes as an experiment. Situated in Wuwei in the Gobi Desert, it was made eventually to run on thorium instead of uranium. It's cheaper and safer, as although thorium is radioactive, it's a lot less than its more expensive counterpart. So it was only in June of last year the reactor got up and running and powering the houses. That's basically as far as we got in the last podcast. Right?
Yeah.
So, a little update. So now it's been revealed that the Chinese scientists are able to remove the spent fuel and reload with the new fuel without having to turn the plant off. In conventional atomic power plants, they need to change the fuel every year. And to change the fuel, the plants must be switched off, and it could take up to 2 months for the process to be carried out. In this, because they not only change the fuel,
Yeah,
which takes 10 days, but they also do a quick maintenance check on.
of course, yeah, yeah. The containment thing, yeah.
So in this case, in this Chinese case, the energy is perpetual
Mm.
because a plant doesn't need to be shut down as often. One would assume that periodical inspections for wear and tear would be carried out, but not every year, and certainly not for 2 months.
Yeah,
This apparently is a huge leap in the process of producing perpetual clean energy safely, and I'm sure that when the time is right, China will upscale the idea to major sized power plants, producing low emission, cheap, low radiation fuel in the future. Whoever knows, the idea might catch on and smaller plants will be built to offer energy to remoter towns and small cities throughout the world. There you are, that's what we got so far. That the Chinese are able to refuel this power plant, this mini power plant that they have without actually turning anything off, which their competitors can't do. In fact, when they declared this, they sort of chided a little bit the US because they said where the US stopped doing the research, the Chinese carried on.
yeah. I mean, obviously, I took the side of caution with it. I'm still on the side of caution with it, not for any other reason than, yeah, I want to know, as I sort of said, yeah, for every good idea, there are implications of maybe, yeah,
Every action has a
the
reaction.
reaction, and yeah, I'd like to know what they are. I've tried to just read bits and pieces of it, um, and yeah, I'm curious. I mean, you don't get something for nothing. It's what I've always been taught with engineering, and this sounds too good to be true. It possibly is. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. Um, okay, the bad thing is we've got this waste material that we don't know what to do anything with. The good thing is, hey, bang, we've now got a use for it. Hopefully not bang, but yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, okay, we talk half-life and everything else. I mean, yeah, there'll still be safety implications. The fact that um the Chinese, I mean, the Chinese, I will hand it, give these the Chinese, and I've known it for years, and I used to work with engineers who say you've got to hand it to the Chinese. They're very good at innovators. Yeah, they might kill a lot of people when they're doing it, but they're very good at innovators. Yeah, they don't forget they have different safety standards and things like this. As I've often said, if the US and the Chinese and possibly the Russians and other people could all figure a way to work together, we'd have an incredible world. We really would. And yeah, sadly, for whatever reasons, that doesn't always happen. Um, yeah, that's geopolitics, and we've done that. I've covered that already today. Um, I I'm going to keep researching it. I'm like I say, I'm not reading too much about it. I want to see more data come in that says this and that. When you read it, it's sort of yeah, as you said, one side said it's this, and this, the other side is this, and this. Nobody's put the headline up that the Chinese have built this reactor. Only scientific journals have been doing it at the moment. Yeah, and again, a lot
Well,
the
no, I mean, where I got the articles from the mainstream media.
yeah, but it's not being revolutionary new energy discovered.
It certainly wasn't the major headline in the
Yeah,
newspaper. You had to dig down to find it.
yeah,
But
um,
I suppose that talking about, being able to refuel a nuclear reactor without actually turning it off is
yeah.
not a huge headline
Well, to me, it
for
is as an
for the
engineer.
masses. It isn't like the Pope has just died.
No, but
That's going to affect an awful lot more people than this nuclear reactor.
okay, the Pope dying is important to me as a Catholic, but yeah, being able to actually have perpetual, or to say, but keep energy going and everything. Okay, the limitation might be that it can't be large scale, um, large scale energy needs. But who needs that? If we go more localized, we won't have the problem we've just had in mainland Europe, where half the continent is basically without energy. Um, if you can put a local place, I mean, yeah, there'd be not on my back door sort of thing, on my backyard, um, but yeah, if you could have an energy power plant for every major city, for example, two or three, north, south, whatever, that would be an advantage rather than having to transport. I mean, there's a lot of energy lost when you transmit over
Yeah,
large areas. I think of this. If you can have a small one, and this has always been spoken about, even with nuclear. The problem is, yeah, when nuclear plants go pop, it can be quite big. I mean, if you build them correctly, it's like you say, that's the way you got the A and the B. And there's actually websites you can see in the UK, which almost in real time, where energy is coming from and which nuclear reactors working at any particular time. Yeah, which ones are working and not. Um, and again, it's quite interesting. Obviously, when you see one that's down, it's because it's been refueled. They're taking the rods out, they're going off to wherever Sellafield or shipped to somewhere else to be stored, which is basically all they can do at the moment. These things are
I think
really
the
bad.
interesting thing that, as I understand it, with this thorium
Mm,
is that, and I'm sort of very, very much of a layman. I just, Lego, a layman.
yeah,
I really don't understand all of these
mm,
things. However, apparently thorium is very low
yeah,
radioactive,
yeah,
right? But once it gets thrown into the reactors,
mm,
they apparently they bombard it with something called an
yeah,
eon,
yeah, excited.
neon,
Yeah, yeah,
and that makes it as powerful as uranium.
mm,
And then when it's spent, then and they drain it all away,
yeah,
it goes back to its natural state of being thorium again,
yeah.
with very low risk radioactivity.
I mean, it could be somebody as if you hit has actually found the holy grail of energy, in effect, is what you're describing. Um, it's yeah,
It's not me saying it. It's
yeah.
a giant
No, no. Well,
saying
what? Yeah,
it's
yeah.
where
I
they've
see.
got to so far.
Yeah, okay. We need more proof and everything else, and it's a if the, I mean, there could be two reasons. If other places came off it, either it's too expensive to develop, um, it didn't work, it's unstable, they couldn't get it to work. Um,
That's never stopped scientists before.
you'd be surprised. Yeah, I mean, when we talked about R&D, research and development, there's ideas that were about 100 years ago that then are now re-evaluating again, or 80 years ago. Yeah.
Like I
Um,
said, like I
so
said, when the Chinese revealed the fact
yeah,
that they could refuel this thing, they were goading the Americans, saying, well, where the Americans stopped their research, we
yeah.
carried on.
Well, that's it. Okay. And if it if it has been proven. It might be they just did something in a slightly different way and bang. I mean, this is how R&D.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
There's been so many developments through not accidents, but by people go, oh, that's interesting. We'll park that and we'll go back to that later. Yeah. And then they have to get the funding and everything. I mean, the Chinese have a slightly different thing. They'll throw resources at something they think will work. Okay. Um, it also
What,
can't,
like, it's like saying, what will happen if I push this button?
yeah, well,
Which, of course, the six ladies that went up with the Jeff Bezos, they didn't say that because they didn't have any buttons to press.
well, yeah, I mean that did prove another point. I mean, that was actually a useful experiment that got blown out of all proportion. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Um, yeah, they could have been, yeah,
Playing it safe.
yeah. It proved
But
that,
get back to the nuclear reactor.
yeah. We've done that already. Yeah. I'm all for it. And it's like I say, I've been seeing bits and pieces. I've not gone into detail. I mean, like you, I mean, yeah, okay, I'm a little bit more trained and probably could understand a bit more. When you say you're not technologically savvy, you're talking to me on high technology with a microphone that's high technology next to you, and you pushing the right buttons and all that. So, yeah, you are a you're not you are a technical person. Yeah.
I just know that it works. I don't know how it works. To me, it's
well,
black magic.
you just sound like some people in engineering. It's working. I don't know why it's working, but it's working, which is all right until it goes wrong. I don't know why it's gone wrong, and I don't know how it worked in the first place. Yeah. Okay.
Happen if I press this button.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. Well, hopefully there has been a breakthrough. The fact that Chinese are releasing it means maybe, and they're sort of making the technology available, inverted commas, is possible, is a good thing. Maybe the Chinese are not the bad guys we all paint them out to be. They're not good guys, but yeah. Um, Maybe this working in isolation. And if we're all talking about at the moment climate change and everything else, it sounds like a much more sensible thing than spraying aerosols into the atmosphere to deflect the sun. Yeah,
Well, if I wasn't cynical
yeah,
as I am, one could argue that the Chinese are dangling the carrot
mm,
for the world to see,
yeah,
to accept them in their Silk Road project,
mm,
right? And the fact that they were goading the Americans,
yeah,
saying that they stopped doing the research and we carried on, it's
mm,
sort of like an example of saying they're bad.
yeah,
We're the real innovators, and you should stick with us. I don't know. I really
yeah.
don't. It's one of those things that it's a double-edged sword.
I
They
mean,
could be doing it for good. They could be doing it for bad.
I
You
mean,
never.
if the Chinese were open and allowed an international team to go into these plants, and I don't know if this has happened for scrutiny, what is it? Yeah, pouring over the plans and talking to their engineers, which probably won't happen. Yeah, I would start going, yes, it could be an answer. I mean, I can see what it's saying. Yeah, you excite the things and then it steps back and yeah, you bombard atoms with other atoms in effect, and then you excite them, you split them, and hey, yeah, that's where the energy and they're coming back together. Whoa, hey, yeah. And then it goes back into a neutral state. That's the fascinating side of it for me. Uh, which would suggest, but then it's how much energy it would take to actually start the initial process off, which is probably why the Americans backed off. I don't know. I'd like to know exactly what they've done. I'd like it to be put under scrutiny by their international peers. And I'm not suggesting for a minute that the Chinese are bad. I've always respected for thousands of years the Chinese have been innovators. They have a tradition and a proven ability at it. Maybe there's a bit of jealousy from us Westerners on this. Yeah. If you want to you want to get a problem solved, give it to the Chinese to do. Yeah. And they are the most natural capitalists in the world as well, despite being a communist country. Yeah.
I'm still trying to solve the problem they've given me, the old Chinese puzzle.
I did Chinese box once. Yeah, that you have to open. Yeah. Oh, they're innovative people. And the way they're training their youngsters, I mean, yeah, follow education. It's quite incredible. On their, yeah, on different things. They might even have on their TikTok, they videos about physicists and physics and all that, as opposed to yeah, people dancing or marriage failures. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
Whilst the Chinese are discussing physics, the Americans are twerking.
I'm afraid that's really what it is. Yeah. And they say, why are they ahead of us? Uh sorry, I've got to consider this one. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, the education of your children is everything.